All right.
What
I'm
up,
kind of
bitches?
excited. Kind of excited that we get like a spooky book because it's coming out the week of Halloween. The episode is.
Wait,
Uh
yes, that is
yeah,
such
and
good
so
timing.
yeah, we're discussing a book with like ghosts and vegans and transphobia.
Hell
Super
yeah.
scary shit. Anyway.
And it's near Halloween, which is near when the book is based. Actually, okay, wait, no, because the book starts
No, it's
two
like
days
perfect
before.
timing, right?
The book starts 2 days before Halloween, right? Which
I think
means
this
our
episode drops on the
episode comes
26th.
out 2 days before Halloween.
Oh my god, no, it's immersive. You're so right. It comes out on the
Right?
29th.
That's beautiful.
We could not have planned this better.
We didn't
plan
plan this. Surprise.
Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to Young Adult Reviews, where two young-ish adults review books meant for much younger adults.
Or children.
I'm Chloe.
And I'm Honor, and this week we are discussing Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. If you haven't read it yet, here's the spoiler warning.
We would like to include a content warning in this episode for the discussion of transphobia. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Yadriel is a gay trans teen who is determined to prove his identity to his conservative Latinx family.
He is a part of a community known as the Brujix, made up of witches who live in a graveyard. Because Yadriel is trans, he was not allowed to become a brujo because his family believed that their god, Lady Death, would not accept him as anything besides a bruja.
Yadriel decides to take things into his own hands and holds his own quinces with his vegan cousin Maritza, who has made him a portaje, his ceremonial knife that he will cut his tongue with to be able to do magic with Lady Death.
The quinces goes great. All Yadriel has to do is summon and release a spirit to the afterlife. Unfortunately, he and Maritza feel a death in their community. Their cousin Miguel has died.
Yadriel is not allowed to take part in the search efforts for the body, so he sets out with Maritza again to search for it and release it himself. They find a necklace in an old church in the cemetery, assume it must be Miguel's tether, and summon him.
Only that's not Miguel. It's Julian Diaz, the resident bad boy of Yadriel's school, and he refuses to be released.
Hijinks ensue. Julian is quite the character, and Yadriel has trouble keeping him hidden and under control. But maybe there's something endearing about Julian's recklessness. Maybe it's something Yadriel grows to even love.
Dia de Muertos is coming soon. Yadriel, now a brujo, is determined to take part in this year's Aquelarre, but Julian is swiftly turning maligno, a corruption of spirits who have been around for too long. He is running out of time to find out what happened to him, not to mention the search efforts for Miguel have been fruitless.
Julian comes to terms with his impending corruption and tells Yadriel that he agrees to pass over willingly. They have a super fun last day on Earth on Halloween, and they share a little smooch.
Yadriel takes Julian back to the church where they met, to release him. But before he can, he relives his murder and flickers away. That's not supposed to happen.
Maritza and Yadriel poke around and find a hidden staircase that leads downstairs to where Yadriel's uncle Catrice is performing human sacrifices for power. Uh-oh! He has Miguel and Julian.
In an epic last fight, Catrice gets dragged down to hell, and Yadriel sacrifices himself to bring the sacrifices back. But with the power of being a vegan, I guess, Maritza saves Yadriel.
Yads and Julian recover together and make it to the Aquelarre to see Yadriel's dead mom welcome him into the community as a brujo. Change, though slow, will come to the Brujex community.
And that's a story, short and sweet.
The end.
Honor, what did you think of this book?
I loved it. I did think it had a little bit slow moments. I would have wished there was more mystery throughout the book rather than kind of just the beginning and just the end. But I loved the romance. I loved all the connections with the characters. I really enjoyed how much realism there was with the feelings and the emotions and the transphobic ideas that were portrayed here. I thought everything was really incredibly well done. And even though I am not a part of that community, I got a better understanding of what it's like being on the other side of something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would definitely agree. I loved this book pretty much from start to finish. It was a super easy read because I was intimidated because I opened the books and I saw the text was really small and I was like, oh,
right.
But, yeah, no, the text is so small and for what? But it didn't even matter because I was reading it like no one's fucking business. It was so good. I probably could have finished it in a day if my schedule allowed it.
I think for me, the first chapter was the hardest to get through, and after that, it was just so smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm. The first chapter does have a lot of world building.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was as caught off guard with it as you were, but I really enjoyed how Aiden built up the world. we should probably get this out of the way. According to Twitter, which I'm assuming is the most up-to-date information on this, Aiden Thomas's pronouns are he, they. So we're going to be using those during the episode, and you should too, because if you don't, then what the fuck?
In the author biography at the back of the book, they have they as the pronouns.
That's but on Twitter it says he, they, so I'm trusting that one.
I'm just going to use they because I know that one's okay.
For sure. I do totally agree with you in that I wish there was more mystery, because they planted like certain little clues that led up to the end, but overall it was like a romance story, which I'm not complaining about. I totally loved it.
They were so cute.
Yeah, and the characters were especially very strong in this book. It started with this great setup for a mystery, but Yadriel wasn't really actively seeking out the mystery, and I don't know if that contributed to this at all, because he was like, yeah, I'd like to find Julian's body potentially, but that wasn't the main focus, you know? And I think that contributed to him just kind of stumbling into the conspiracy at the end.
Well, it's funny because he was trying to find Miguel, and that was like what he was all into even after Julian kind of first came into the picture, before they fell in love with each other. And he was like, oh, I'm gonna solve this mystery and everything, but even then he wasn't like actively searching out anything. Like after he found Julian's necklace, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna find Miguel, but then he didn't do anything to do that. So I was like, sir.
No, right. But it really is just something that he kind of stumbles into at the end, because his abuelita like talks about like, oh, la gata de jaguar or whatever, which is like the ceremonial knives, of course, that his Uncle Catrice has been using to perform the human sacrifice. And they're missing, and his grandma's like, oh my god, where are they? That's crazy. If anyone sees me, let them know. Which, don't you think you should keep a closer eye on that and be less casual about it if it goes missing, if they're like literally things that you can use to perform human sacrifices to gain immense power?
Yeah, I feel like you would be a lot more on top of that. But she's like, I'm gonna just keep it in my garage. This is fine.
Yeah, she's like, I haven't seen them in a while. If anyone has, let me know. And everyone's like, oh, Lita.
Right? Well, because they all kind of took it as just like an old wives' tale sort of thing.
That's true.
Like, this is just for decoration now at this point. But it's like they forgot that there were were they swords?
They were knives. They were like daggers.
They were the actual knives that were used. And so they're not decorative knives. Like, these actually could still perform those rituals and sacrifices. And they were like, eh.
I would like to say, though, Catrice really surprised me in him being... Okay, it didn't surprise me. Like, looking back, I saw it coming. But basically, Catrice's whole thing is that he is this outcast because there's this thing called the dilution of power that basically makes the Bruhix community of today way weaker than the Bruhix community of like 2,000 years ago. So Catrice is like kind of a victim of that dilution of power, and he can't do magic at all or else he'll die. And so as a result, he's kind of been like shunned out of this community, and Yadriel kind of bonds with him over that because Yadriel is also like not allowed to do magic. So they're barred from this integral aspect of their culture that everyone else takes part in, but they say that they can't because they're different. I'm not gonna lie, I thought Catrice was gay. I thought that was the vibes I was picking up on, not villain vibes. Like, is he gay or is he a villain? I can't tell. It turns out he was a villain. If he was gay, did not know about it. Anyway, what did you think about the reveal at the end?
I kind of sort of saw it coming, mostly because a lot of characters that are pushed out to the side like that have that villainous comeback in a way. Like, they're either really good characters and very supportive of the main character, or they're the villain.
Like our boy Altair.
Yeah.
Never forget.
We love Altair. And so it wasn't until about halfway through the book that I picked up which vibe it was, because it was when he started arguing with the dad.
Enrique,
that I was like, oh yeah, this is villain vibes. And he was mentioned a little bit too much for it to just be the like supportive side uncle, you know? So it wasn't shocking. I would have hoped for better. I did not pick up on the gay vibes, though. I thought it was going to be like he was transgender as well.
Yeah, because then Julian gave Yadriel that whole speech of like, oh, you're not the first. And Yadriel was like, yes, I am. And Julian's like, no fucking way you're not. Like, they might have hidden it, but you're not the first.
Right. And so I thought that was why he didn't have magic, because he was using the wrong type of magic. Like, when Yadriel tried to use the Bruja magic, it backfired.
Yeah, because I thought that whole Julian speech was going to be related back to Tio Catrice, because I was picking up on the vibes.
Right?
And then also that, because then also when he was arguing with Enrique, he was like, we need to change or else we are going to die out as a people. And Enrique was like, I don't want to hear it, Catrice. But I also thought that that was him kind of arguing for himself, but I guess for himself in the way that I didn't pick up on, because I thought he was arguing on behalf of Yadriel as well, for maybe issues that they identified with together.
Which is like kind of how I was seeing things, but then it wasn't. And it was Tio was just the villain, and it was like, oh well. But then he got dragged down to hell, and it was like,
that was cool. You know the vibes that I picked up from this book? I picked up like early thousands Halloween movie vibes. Like I want this to be made in the style of an early thousands Halloween movie, like Hocus Pocus, Halloween Town. Don't you get these vibes?
Yes, I get the vibes, especially with like the quick wrap up with the ending. Like it's not that scary, but it's like really dramatic, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? But you're not like scared for their lives.
No, it's like a really long second act and a super short third act, which is like perfect. It like wraps. Nothing happens until like the last 40 pages.
And you have the whole romance as the like main character and the love interest like interact with each other, and you're like, that's so cute. And then you're like, oh yeah, we're in a Halloween movie.
And they steal a car to go to a party, and then they like watch the sunset on the stolen car, and it's like a really cool car.
That is such a movie moment.
Isn't that if we were a movie? No, but this book, cinematic, written very much like a screenplay, I feel like, in terms of beats. Very good thing, makes for an entertaining story that easily holds your attention. No, okay, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't get the idea that Julian wasn't quite dead yet until the second time that Yadriel went to cut the cord and it wasn't snapping, and I was like, maybe he's just like half dead.
You're like, wait a second.
Yeah, I like did guess the twists of the ending like 2 pages before they happened, but I still guessed them before they happened. So
it counts.
Go me.
It counts.
Yay, it counts.
See, that one I did not pick up on, and that was because you had texted me the night before I got to that scene, and so I read your text about it, and so I was like reading through and already seeing how that was gonna become like that.
Yeah, so, sorry. I thought you were done by the time I texted you about it, because I was reading at like 1 a.m. my time. So I was like, oh, she's definitely done.
I fell asleep in the middle of reading. It was an unfortunate circumstance. So, but it was nice in a way because I could kind of see how those threads were all going to tie into each other to have that come about. I also liked that Yadriel was like, oh, well, I have this tether to him, and used that tether to go find his soul when it kind of vanished from just after that scene. I was like, that's so smart, because they would never have found it otherwise. Like,
no, literally. But Julian was down there like half dead for a minute.
Right?
Yeah, like
he survived half alive for 2 days.
Yeah, like damn.
Catrice said that it took a long time to drain each body of the blood and the soul. So I think that's why he lasted so long, is because it was such a slow process. He was like drip drying the bodies, like
hang them upside down, you know.
Just casual sacrifice things.
Okay, one thing that I really liked at the end of the book was they went into Julian's point of view for one chapter, and I just want the whole book from Julian's point of view. I want give me what was that one Twilight one that they rewrote from Edward's perspective?
Oh,
I want that, but Julian.
What was that one? Was that Midnight Sun?
It might have been Midnight Sun. I haven't read Twilight.
I'm pretty sure it's Midnight Sun.
But I
think that would be really fun.
I love that, because it was written in third person point of view, but it was also like third person limited. So I just want to watch Julian fall in love with Yadriel, because we saw how Yadriel fell in love with Julian, and I just give it to me, please.
I just like
so cute.
I liked the difference between like the moment they met and then like 2 hours later, because Julian was like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm so like bad, he's ragging on everyone. You'd think he'd be the like dark hair, morally gray kind of person. Like, because he's so like, I don't care about anything that's happening. Like, I'm so cool and suave kind of thing. And then by the end of the night, he's like, I am Labrador Retriever.
No, literally, he's
Give
like such
me
a class clown type.
attention. He's like, give me attention. Please. He's like, I have accepted you now. I will be myself and you will give me what I need.
No,
you
literally.
are my person now.
Okay, something that I was pleasantly surprised about. First of all, going into this book, I knew it was gay, didn't know it had trans rap, but something that did surprise me.
I was shocked by that because that was when I first heard about this book, and that's why I wanted to read it. So I was like, oh, that's
I just saw the boys on the cover, and I was like, they're boys in a cemetery. They might kiss. They might kiss.
They're definitely not 6 feet apart. They might kiss.
I am glad, though, that they went the path where Julian wasn't the homophobic bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought he was totally going to be like a closeted bully.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just very much out and not a bully at all.
Right. Well, because that's
which was like such a pleasant surprise to turn his character archetype on its head, I feel like.
Well, because that was kind of the vibe he gave with the first like meeting, was he was kind of like pushing them around some and like being a bully, and Maurice was like, this is funny the whole time. And then he just starts just accepting everything that's coming at him, and he's like super supportive, and he's like asking all these questions that's making Yadriel go, whoa, dude, like don't tell me that like you can see more than I can like let myself see about me.
No, right. Because something that I thought was going to like lead up into the whole like, oh, he's a bully kind of thing was he misgenders Yadriel after they first meet. And I was like, oh, here we go. And he's going to get like educated. But he didn't need education. He already knew.
Well, I think that was the turning point between the like standoffish self that he showed and his actual normal self. Just happy vibe.
Yeah.
I also thought with that, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. But he was like, oh, okay. And just referred as the he after that point. And I was like, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, because I don't know if you like understood the Spanish or took the time to look it up. Because when Yadriel goes to visit Julian's friends, there's graffiti that Julian did on the wall. It's signed Saint J, and Julian really identifies with Saint Jude, so it's like kind of implied that it's him. But I don't know if you like took the time to.
It is said that it was him because the handwriting was the same.
Oh yeah, it's like oh, a handwriting that he recognized. You're so true, bestie.
Yeah.
But what the graffiti says is there are girls with penises, boys with vaginas, and transphobes without voices, I believe is what it says. And I was like, oh, because you'd think it'd be like, oh, this like group of like bad kids that like don't want to go to school and like they're probably like really homophobic, but they're not. They just like have been ousted from their communities and their homes, and they're looking for a place together.
I think they kind of just give that vibe because they are trying very hard to protect themselves in a world that has been very much against them their entire lives, which is really unfortunate. But I think it's wonderful that they found a group that they can be so close together and trusting of.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks a lot about our conceptions of the world, the fact that we were so ready and willing to assume that it was the opposite. Because it's almost like the girls that Julian was there and they were like gossiping about him. They were like, oh, he's like from Colombia. He's in a gang. His dad was a sicario kind of thing. And he was getting mad, of course, because it's not true. Not that our misconceptions went that deep, but I feel like the fact that we were willing to assume that they were
the fact that we stereotyped them.
The fact that we stereotyped them as morally bad or morally ambiguous, I think speaks a lot about society's conceptions about the type of people who like don't or can't come to school. Instead of just like people who are trying their best and don't have a home, we automatically think that, oh, they don't want to be there. You know?
I agree. I think that says a lot. So yeah, no, I wanted to talk about some of the things that needed translation in it. And some of it, Aiden Thomas very like easily gave like translations for it. And then some of it, there wasn't any translation for, which I found a little bit frustrating because there's nothing wrong with not giving the translation, but it pulls the reader out of the story when they have to go look something up. And there was no like definition or glossary or anything like that for it. And I kind of wish there had been, because there were just moments it was really well done. It was kind of like with We Hunt the Flame, they gave the translation almost immediately after, but in a very subtle way. And then there were moments where they gave nothing at all. And I was like, what just happened?
I can't relate because if I look at Spanish for long enough, I realize what it says. I can't speak it very well. or at all. But like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just like a product of my upbringing, because like my grandma is fluent in Spanish. I don't know if you knew that. But if I listen to Spanish, I can pick up enough to like understand what it's about. And I don't know. I felt that with this book because the phrases aren't particularly complex in terms of what they use. And when it's like really important, when it's like a lot, it's like, oh, they said this in Spanish, and it's like the English phrasing. But it's like, it was really cute when Julian was like, "Can I steal a kiss?" And I was like,
That was adorable.
that was so cute. And then Julian called Yadriel his dearest.
Okay, I lost my mind at that one. I was like, oh my, like all the bad stuff was going down, and they were like, is Yadriel gonna make it through? And he's like, my dearest. And I was like,
and Enrique was like, oh, are you Yadriel's friend? And he's my dearest. And his dad was like, oh. Like, I guess.
His dad was
crazy.
Like, his dad was like, do you all know this kid?
They're like, who the hell is this?
No, but my biggest thing was just like, there's nothing wrong with not giving translations or anything, but there were so many that had translations, or they had the context well enough that you could understand that it was fine. But usually those were the ones that I kind of understood just from what it was, because they were similar enough to English. I was like, oh, okay, this means that kind of an idea. But then there were some, like the whole sentence that Julian wrote that wasn't translated or explained at all. And he was like, what is this? And I have like no background in Spanish at all. So
from Alabama.
Yeah. I mean, that's not why I don't have a background in Spanish, because I could have taken a Spanish class. But
the linguistic landscape of the American Southwest and Alabama is completely different. And one could argue that Spanish is more prevalent in one than the other.
True. Well, and you living in Arizona probably helps with that too.
No, right, because like I've grown up around Spanish my entire life, and it's like I don't speak it very well because my high school scheduling fucked me over. I wanted to take Spanish, but they put me in fucking German. What the fuck am I gonna do with German? Anyway, we're getting off track.
We are.
What the fuck are we talking about?
We were just talking about translations. That was it. I said my point. That was all. I just wish that there was a little bit more. Like, I feel like if you're gonna include it, like, be consistent throughout the book.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that the context surrounding the Spanish words was a little inconsistent, because sometimes it would straight up explain things, and I think that was a very good clue in as to what was important to the plot. Because when they were talking about Balmon, Maritza said like something cheeky. She was like, oh, it feels like Balmon is here. And then Yadriel was like, do you really think Balmon, the ancient jaguar god, is in this building tonight? It was a little like tongue-in-cheek at points like that, and then other points it like did not tell you anything at all, but like you knew it was like romantic kind of thing. Like you knew,
like I don't think they explained my dear, but that one was like you understood where that was coming from.
You felt the power.
And then especially with the dad's reaction, like, what the fuck?
He's like, okay.
Who is this kid? Whose kid is this?
Yadriel's, were you not listening?
Right.
I do like that Maritza. I don't know if we ever explained Maritza's whole thing. Maritza's whole thing is that she's a vegan, but in order to use magic, you need to use animal blood. So she just refuses to do magic. And
so it's by choice that she's not using hers.
Yeah, but the thing is, at the end, she uses human blood. We were discussing, we were like, whose blood is it? It might be the blood of the sacrifices on the floor.
Yeah, because I went back and looked it up. And so Catrice had been draining their blood into the pool that the jaguar had come from. And so that was the blood, because they were in the pool, basically. That was the blood she used. So she used the sacrifices blood, which I think was why it gave her that extra power.
To bring Yadriel back from the dead, because Yadriel's pulse had like stopped.
Yeah, because they also said that like because of all the long lineage and the fact that the magic was kind of diluting itself, that wasn't possible anymore. So I think because of the sacrifice and the fact that it had like kind of sort of gone through, that it was able to work for her.
I'll accept that. Okay, because at first I was like, not the vegan being OP.
Right?
Not the vegan being the main character. Maritza was the main character in her own head. Like, for real.
Oh, she definitely was. Like, she is a main character.
With her pink and purple hair.
I loved that hair, okay?
She's so good. I don't know. Maritza's like the best friend that everyone needs.
I was reading and I was like, do I want pink and purple hair? That's
yes,
a look.
you do.
That is a vibe.
Maritza's a vibe. What can we say?
She was the funniest out of all of them.
Oh, she was so funny.
Right?
Okay, her like categorizing them by zodiac signs, Yajirel being a Cancer and Julian being a Scorpio.
Right?
Like, is your birthday next month by any chance? And Julian was like, yeah.
He's like, how'd you know? She's like, I told you. Yadril's like, I am so over her already.
What's Maritz's zodiac sign? Real quick.
Dude, I don't know.
Pisces.
She does give Pisces vibes.
She exudes Pisces to me. I don't know if that's right, but she has Pisces somewhere in her big three.
Yeah, I don't know that she is Pisces, but I definitely get the Pisces vibe.
Pisces sun, Leo rising. I'm calling it. Okay. Aiden Thomas, let me know if I'm right. Let's be TikTok besties.
All you hear is crickets.
Anyway, I would like to talk about the emotional maturity of Yadriel and Julian.
Ah, yes.
Oh my god, they like didn't fight at all about things that weren't important.
Right? And even when they did fight, it was in a discussive manner rather than an attacking manner, which I thought was really nice, because there's so much nowadays that people argue and it's against each other. It's not solving the problem. And they were very much like, we're going to solve the problem together and work together to like sort out what's happening, kind of thing. Even if they got a little angry. So good.
So good.
So good.
No miscommunication trope between them.
Which was like, really refreshing.
Right? It was so refreshing to read a YA novel that didn't have them bickering over the stupidest shit. It was like actual important things. Like about family and your identity kind of shit, which is like super important and very real conversations that you need to have as like a couple.
Right?
But
and like
they didn't waste time on any of the petty shit.
And they would talk about their emotions when they felt like they weren't being heard. Like when Julian wanted to go to the school, he explained why and like what was going on and why he didn't want to get left behind, kind of a thing. And Yadriel's like, yeah, but, and then Marita was like, you're still taking him.
Yeah, no, it was
they
like a breath of fresh fucking air. It was young so love with none of the stuff that makes it irritating. It was just cute.
Well, and I think that's needed, because if people don't see examples of what healthy behavior is, how are they going to know and how are they going to use it?
Exactly.
They can't.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's really refreshing that you have a book meant for young adults that shows so many good emotional responses and like healthy coping ways and things like that.
Do you think that it's because they're not straight?
Low key.
Because I'm not saying that I'm not saying that most couples in YA novels are straight. Well, most couples in YA novels are straight, and they all have these fucking communication issues.
Well, and there's so much that I feel like straight people just let so much slide that shouldn't.
Oh my god. No,
and I say that
women are like notorious for settling.
Right?
No, like absolutely.
And there's no reason for that. And the straight men are very much like super toxic and like all of that, and the women and
they're like, oh, it's not a big deal,
just accept that because he's good to me, so it's okay. This is a fun story to read, but that's not good behavior. Like, don't accept that, please stop.
Yeah,
I just was real life, there'd be problems.
No, right, but like if this were real life,
it'd be perfectly fine, right?
It'd be perfectly fine because it's such a healthy relationship that they have. It's very refreshing seeing like such positive representation of a relationship in like a marginalized community, especially because God knows we're fucking tired of the miscommunication trope in straight relationships.
And it's very clear that's not necessary.
Right?
I also loved that you saw them build up the relationship, but there was no point where they fell apart. And I feel like that is so often used to drive the plot of a book where they like fall apart and everything's like awful and then they get back together and everything's la da da. That never happened. And that was really nice because, you know, sometimes when they fall apart, they shouldn't be getting back together. Like just because you have feelings doesn't mean it's okay that they did all of that stuff. But none of that happened. And it was like they were happy and healthy and good through the entire thing. Like you don't have to accept stuff like that. It was so nice. It was so nice.
They fought and they became stronger because of it. They didn't weaken. Yes. It didn't drive a wedge between them. It just brought them closer together, which is how it should be.
Exactly. And I think that goes back to they were arguing and working together to solve what they were arguing over rather than pitting themselves against each other.
I love them. They're such a good couple.
They are
Deadass.
so good, and they're so cute together. The
Oh
way
my
like
God, it's so
Yadril
cute.
was like, "I'm gonna give up my life so that you can live," and then Julian was like, "I'm gonna give up my life so you can live. Cut it out."
Cut it out. Cut it out. But at the same time, it tackles these very delicate issues with a whole lot of fucking tact. Like Adrian Thomas does a great job. It's not just LGBT issues. It's also he tackles gang violence. He tackles immigration,
Family relations.
just shit like that. And it's all these really sensitive topics that no one likes to talk about. And he just talks about all of them. He's like, let me discuss this with you guys.
But I feel like it's really well done in a way that's like realistic and not purposefully triggering.
Absolutely.
Because I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of times when topics like this are brought up, it's brought up in a way that is kind of meant to trigger that feeling, that uncomfortability that people get with it, with the topic, versus this like very easily stated, like kind of here's what the problems are, but they don't have to be this way. Here's like correct responses to this situation as well. Like here's the bad way to treat people that are like this, whether they're like in gangs, whether they have bad family relations, whether they're transphobic, or whether they're like sexist, or like any of this, or they're just like against vegans. But I don't
Marita was like, I am an ally. She's like, the V in LGBT stands for vegan.
I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry, I'm too funny.
I know. I was basically trying to say that it was done in a really nice way that it teaches both the right and the wrong paths and approaches to take in situations like this, rather than only showing the horrors of what happens. And I thought that was really nice.
No, it's not trauma porn. I think it's like what you're going for. No, that's like a legitimate term that people use for the suffering. That. You've never heard about trauma porn?
Never heard about that.
Okay, trauma porn is media that showcases a group's pain and trauma in excessive amounts for the sake of entertainment. Trauma porn is created not for the sake of marginalized communities, but instead to console or entertain the non-marginalized group. This is very much, Cemetery Boys is very much a piece of media that was written for the marginalized group, and it takes on an educational tone, I feel like, if you are not from these marginalized communities looking in and consuming this media.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because that's kind of what I was trying to say. And it's really interesting that that's bad enough that it has a whole genre.
Oh no, absolutely. It's terrible, especially in like media from like the early thousands. I'm like trying to think of examples, but yeah, I think it's like most commonly seen with representation of the Black community. But I would argue that for certain trans pieces of media, there is a trauma porn aspect to it as well.
I would believe that, especially from some of the stuff that I've just heard about. It's been that way, but this is very much not. It's like you said, it was for that community rather than about.
Probably because it's created by someone who is a part of that community, you know, because Adrian Thomas identifies as queer, trans, non-binary, and a himbo, in case you were curious.
I love that.
No, I love that for them.
Right.
Which is probably why it doesn't read as trauma porn, because why would you want to fetishize that for someone else's entertainment when you are the person that would be getting fetishized? Because that would be fucked up.
That's really weird. Yeah.
But I also think that this book is like a great example of how to write it if you are not someone from within that community. And an example that I'd like to talk about is how Thomas approaches the dead name of Yadriel. Basically, it just says like, she said his dead name, and it doesn't give that name any power, not even part of the word count on the fucking page, which I really appreciate, because it doesn't really even give you the chance to talk about that part of Yadriel, because that part of Yadriel is not who he is, you know?
It's gone. It's dead.
It's dead for a reason, you know?
Exactly. You know, Yadriel kind of, very unfortunately, let people walk over him a little bit because he wasn't confident enough in who he was. He wanted others to accept him as he was accepting himself. And so I liked that in that particular scene, because his abuelita mentioned his dead name and he went off on her, as he should have. There weren't very many other times that he stood up for himself that much, but I think that was so very important that he stood up for that particular one.
Yeah, because throughout the course of the book, Yadriel has like these really, I don't want to say like beautiful sentiments because like looking out, it's very easy to see how someone from the trans community could easily identify with this. In that, like, you're always apologizing, you're always saying, oh, it's okay. And you're apologizing for people not recognizing you for who you are. And you are apologizing for their actions, whereas they should be apologizing to you, kind of thing. You know, and I think that's a sentiment that a lot of trans people can identify with because conflict is hard in the first place. Imagine someone looking you in the face and being like, that's not who you are. And you're like, but I said it was. And they're like, now apologize to me for it. It's an incredibly difficult struggle, but I think it's very well represented because Yadriel is kind of coming into his own. It's a coming of age story. You know, it's a coming of age love story with a spooky flair. And I don't know, there's just like a lot about this book that there is to admire in how Thomas approaches these issues.
I agree. I think it was incredibly well done, and it's, like I said, it's very realistic, and I think it gives a good story for people to relate to that are both of the community and those who are trying to understand the community.
Totally agree. And then if we look at Julian, of course, who I think helps Yadriel come out of his shell a whole lot.
Oh, he definitely did.
Yeah, because Julian is like out and proud about it. He's like nonchalant about it, and and Yadriel was like, what would you know about LGBT issues? And Julian's like, I'm gay. And Yadriel's like,
what?
Yadriel's like, out of pocket.
You could see the wheels spinning as Yadriel went, this is an option for me?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And on the topic of family issues, especially within Latinx communities, families are often like very large and all-encompassing with many aspects of your life. And Julian was like, I don't have parents. And Yadriel was like, oh, fuck, he doesn't have a family. That's so sad. But the fact of the matter is, Julian does have a family. It's a found family. And I think that's another sentiment that a lot of LGBT people can relate to, because when you are ousted from your home for being who you are forced to find for yourself those who will love you like a family, you know?
And those accept you for who you are.
Yeah. And I think that Yadriel also became like kind of open to that idea by the end of the book, because he learned to trust the people that Julian like hung out with. Like he worked with Luca a little bit. And while Maritza was kind of like that supportive force that he needed in his life, she was his family. And sometimes you just need someone outside your family, you know?
Yeah, especially when your family is Tio Catrice, who literally tries to murder everyone in your family.
Literally tried to murder your boyfriend before you even started dating him. Can't get over that. Do you want to talk about the author?
What's up with the author, Chloe? You give us the deets.
I'll give you the deets on Aiden Thomas. So Cemetery Boys was Aiden Thomas's debut novel, which is like, isn't that amazing?
No, it's fantastic that it was such a well-written and well-informed book.
Wouldn't you want to read more books by Aiden Thomas?
You know, actually, I really would.
Yeah, okay. Well,
serious.
You're in luck, because in January of this year, 2021, he came out with another book called Lost in the Neverwoods. And it sounds like another urban fantasy, and it's a retelling of Peter Pan.
Really?
Yeah, right?
That's so exciting.
BarnesandNoble.com calls it the Peter Pan retelling we didn't know we needed. So there is that.
Is it a standalone?
I do believe it is. Yeah, I want to say it is.
This is definitely an author that I would love to like support more.
It was just an easy read.
But it was a good one.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it was very simple and fluid and easy to understand, it was also really informative, but in a very like casual way that I didn't feel like information was being like shoved down my throat. Like, you have to be this way. It was like, no, this is just the way people can be. And I was like, yes, I love it.
Yeah, I don't know what issues, if any, like social issues, Aiden Thomas approaches in this book. I can't really tell, because with Cemetery Boys, it's like very obvious. It's like Yadriel is a gay, trans, Latinx teen trying to prove his identity to his family. But for Lost in the Neverwoods, it's just kind of like children are going missing and there's a mystery afoot, which very interesting premise. But I would like to see more commentary that Adrian Thomas might have, or I just have a feeling that all of his books have like great representation. Do you get that vibe? I get that vibe.
I get that vibe. But, there's only one way to find out.
So true, bestie. Add it to the list. Lost in the Neverwoods.
Right? Do that as another book that we read if we don't have time to go through the books we were planning on.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we've done this? No, but we won't tell which book it was.
I can't even remember which book it was.
I do.
I'm like looking up on my shelf to like see if I can.
Okay, here's a hint. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Oh, it was Clockwork 3. Okay.
Yeah. Did you like I did the clock sound but 3 times, right?
Yeah, that was very funny.
Thank you. I'm so clever.
You're so fucking funny.
I really believed that. Thank you. I don't know what it was. The monotone voice, I'm
a great liar.
The sarcasm laced to the end of the sentence. So, are you going to read the Lost in the Neverworld?
I would like to.
Do you think it's a romance? I know you said mystery.
I hope there's romance.
I also hope there's a romance because I would like another breath of fresh air, please. Thank you, Aiden Thomas.
No, literally, like his writing style is such a breath of fresh air. It's just a quick read that's like so enjoyable. Like, why wouldn't you?
And the one bed trope, right? It was like lightly used.
Julian sleeps on the floor.
It was lightly used here, but it existed.
They listened to music together in the same bed until Julian relived his death, and Yadril was really freaked out about it. So he was like, "You sleep on the floor now."
Low key, if that hadn't happened, I think they would have been in the same bed anyway.
That's
also,
so
like,
bestie.
okay, that would have been nice because, like, when you get really hot at night, you just have a nice cold ghost to like chill you, just like
to like roll over
cool.
into.
Right? Refreshing. Your pillow would always stay cold. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, one thing, I have one note about the end that I don't know if it was ever fully explained. And it's like not even a big deal. It's just like a world building thing that I was confused about.
Okay.
Basically, so at the end, Julian comes to the Aquilade with Yadriel, and they both see Yadriel's dead mom because she returns for Dia de Muertos. Why can Julian see ghosts if he's not a brujo? Is it because he was
Julian
dead?
Saw her.
No, he did. I think he addressed her by name.
Hang on, I'm looking this up.
Because I would accept it if the answer was it's just because he had died and now he's back.
And then she looks at oh yeah, because he addresses her, "Hi, Miss Villas."
Yeah.
And then she talks back to him, Camila. I would say it's probably, I mean, that's a really, really good question. I'd say it's probably because he was half dead.
For like a really long time.
Yeah. I think because Yadriel had kind of fixed the sacrifice and brought him back, that probably gave him the ability. But you're right.
Does that mean those other two kids are just walking around seeing ghosts and shit?
It could also be because it's Dia de Muertos.
Oh, that's a good question. It might be because it's only on Dia de Muertos. I don't know. I have questions, Aiden Thomas. DM me.
Aiden Thomas.
Aiden Thomas, I have questions.
This can be our TikTok teaser, and we can just tag Aiden Thomas and be like, please.
Does he have a TikTok?
Please. Yes. That's how I got onto Cemetery Boys.
Wait,
right?
what? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They have some great videos too.
Oh my God.
Pretty exciting.
Wait, I need to follow them.
Right? I think we follow them on the young adult account.
Do we?
If not, we will.
I can't believe I didn't know that they had a TikTok. I'm mad now.
You should be. It's really embarrassing for you, bestie. All that research.
And I still didn't know he had a TikTok.
You're like Twitter, and I'm like TikTok.
You're like, anyway,
who's the younger one of us? I'm just kidding.
Listen, Grandma.
Oh my God.
Someone should put you in a box floating down the river, Grandma.
I'm going to be like, I can almost still hear his voice to this day. I'm not dead.
Is there anything else you want to cover before we go into ratings?
Honestly, my biggest complaint was the translations and the fact I wish there had been a little bit more mystery throughout. But I loved the romance. I can't be mad about that, you know?
Oh my God, it was such a good romance.
It was so good. They are so good together. Also, when Julian was like in the shopping market, like in the grocery store, and they're like just piling all kinds of food in there, and he's like skipping down the halls. That was so funny. I was like, this is so
okay,
cute.
but for real, who wants Takis Limon? Fuego's the only way to go. Julian's onto something. You know? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Drew's like, you are definitely not. Not
it's like you're a disgrace to your people.
Right? Also, did he even get to eat any of that?
They were kind of dying.
He can eat whatever he wants now.
So true. He can have that cheeseburger that he was taunting Maritza with.
Right.
Honor, what would you rate this book?
Oh my god, thank you for asking. I give this book a 4.75 out of 5 stars.
Oh my god, why? Where is it the translations that it lost points in?
Partly the translation and partly because I wanted a little more mystery throughout rather than just all at the end you're like, whoa.
I agree.
Because I think we could have still had that whoa aspect, but still had like hints towards it a little bit more. So yeah, I would have liked that. That's I mean, it's so close. It was so close.
So close. Yeah. Who would you recommend this book to?
I would say anybody, honestly. I feel like this was just a really well done story. It's very light, very refreshing, very easy to go through. Anyone in a Halloween mood, read this book.
If you're spooky and gay, read this book.
Read this book. Also, I feel like if you're looking for kind of an understanding of the trans community and kind of like what they go through in a way to like better approach them and be allies, I feel like this has a good starting point for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, definitely you need to do research and do more than just this book, but I feel like this is a good like starting point to get some understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe, how would you rate this book?
I'm gonna rate it a 4.5 out of 5.
Oh,
because I agree. I wish it had had more mystery. I love the romance, but I feel like the mystery just came all at the end very quick. Because like I was literally like waiting for it to happen. I was like, is this even gonna get resolved in this book? Because like the pages kept dwindling, and I was like, I only have like 40 pages left. When is this gonna go down?
They went down the stairs, and it was like, oh, this is suddenly not a romance. This is a mystery.
Like, no, literally, it got real spooky real quick.
Like the light switch flipped and you're like, oh, I forgot this was what we were here for.
I wish along with the romance it had more of an investigative aspect to it in relation to Miguel and Julian's murder as opposed to just like meeting up with Julian's friends and family to make sure they're okay and then him wanting to pass on.
Yeah, I agree. Thoroughly agree.
I would also recommend this, like, of course I'd recommend it to everybody, but specifically to people, perhaps the parents of children, perhaps the parents in like a traditionally conservative household who don't understand, but they're trying to. Mm-hmm. I would recommend this to them to read as like a jumping off point. Maybe make it a buddy read with your kid, like discuss it with them.
That'd be cute. Maybe
like turn it into a good parenting moment. I hope it'd be a good parenting moment. Hopefully if you're willing to do this, you're a good parent. But if you're not a good parent, you probably wouldn't even humor the idea of reading this in the first place. Mm-hmm. With the goal of understanding, of course. Yeah, that's my verdict on Cemetery Boys.
I like that. It was a good verdict.
Thank you.
Shall we get into the outro?
Let's get into the outro. Thank you so much for listening. We upload episodes bi-weekly. That is once every 2 weeks on Fridays, not twice a week. I would die. I would literally die if we had to do that much reading.
We also have other social media, including Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Goodreads. So follow us there. Leave a like.
You can also drop suggestions on any one of our social medias. We also have a Q&A function on Spotify now, where you can drop some suggestions there.
I forgot to mention it, but all of our handles are at Young Adult Reviews.
So true, bestie. That's absolutely all of our handles for everything.
It's like we planned it out.
That's crazy.
What?
If you made it this far, we thank you so much. We're extremely grateful for you. Thank you for listening to our labors of love and unsolicited opinions. And as always, that's a wrap.
That was good. That was like ASMR vibes.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.